look out, it's just two middle-aged geeks on film.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, yeah, I knew you were waiting for it.
The problem is now everybody's going to have a problem understanding. Like, if they listen to this episode, they're like, what episode is this? I don't get it. Because it's the same thing you do every time. It's going to become a little bit of a bit.
Well, I mean, to be fair, our entire podcast has become nothing but a running bit, I feel like, at this point.
True. Looking at my clock. All right, anyway.
I mean, I'm not mad about it, to be fair. I like our conversations. I just think it's funny.
I do like these conversations as well, and I like them just as much whether they're on the main channel or they're Patreon exclusive for now, like this is. Unless you're watching this on the main channel in December. Hello, patrons. Hello, all you fine folks out there. Much happy to be here.
Hello to everyone in December who's listening to this after the fact as well.
And it might not even be December. We're not even sure yet, to be honest with you. But sometime later on.
Well, it's so funny because theoretically speaking, if you've been listening to this long enough, you're actually a little surprised that you're getting this episode right now if you haven't listened to the Superman 3 episode that we did.
That's right.
Because we were supposed to go on break, and we were not going to be covering any MCU stuff for about 8 weeks because we were going to be doing Doctor Who.
Right.
And then you and I both decided privately, we were like, we just want to enjoy Doctor Who because there's too much weirdness going on and drama around it right now. Not like the fandom is kind of eating itself alive because we don't know where it's going, and there's a lot of rumors about where the show is going, and so we were like, you know what? Let's just enjoy it. Like, I just want to enjoy the ride. I don't want to worry about the rest of it. Let's just have fun.
Every episode would have been looking at us going, I don't know, is it going to go on hiatus? I don't know, is it going to go on hiatus? Oh, is this thing important or does it not matter because we're going on hiatus? And that just didn't seem like a fun 8 weeks for us to podcast about. No. If we could have compartmentalized and just talked about the episodes, we would have been fine. But it's hard to compartmentalize.
Yeah, you're going to get wrapped up in it no matter what, right? Absolutely. Like, it's just one of those things. So we decided that it was also better because we wanted to keep the Patreon stuff also rolling because we've been having a lot of fun with it, and you guys pay the big bucks, and you know, we might as well throw you a bone, I guess, or something. Yeah. That's how that works.
Definitely had a couple of people hop on, I know, since the start of the MCU rewatch. So thank you so much to you and to the ones who have been here forever. I appreciate you.
Or the ones who have come back and watched The Beekeeper.
Oh, that too. That's true.
Yes. I'm so amped about that still. I love that the fact that I was turning that into a running bit because protect the hive, number one.
Protect the hive.
Protect the hive. God, that makes me so happy that we're like creating a cult around the Beekeeper.
And we should be. And absolutely we should be.
Oh, 100%.
It is a perfect film for, if you are like us in any way, shape, or form, it is a perfect film.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean it's a perfect film. But it's
a perfect 5-star movie. No note. Jason Statham protects the hive real well. That's all I'm saying. Like, look, it's just Jason Statham 28. Jason Statham versus the hive.
Jason Statham 28. I like that. That's
well, I mean, let's call it what it is, right? Everyone in his movies.
Do that. Can we retroactively just go Jason Statham, the transporter, Jason Statham, the mechanic, Jason. Yeah, I think we should do that.
Yeah, 100%. And each one of those is just, that's why my pitch for the Meg 3 is that it should just be a movie where Jason Statham plays himself making the Meg 3 and a real Megalodon attacks the set.
Oh my God. Oh, that would be meta, and I am so here for it.
Right.
Oh my God.
See, look, I have ideas. Hollywood, call me. Like, I'm full of ideas.
Jason Statham, the Meg 3, the making of the Meg.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you could wait till like the Meg 7 to do it, but why wait on greatness? Like, that's just where I'm at. Why wait on greatness? Just throw Jason Statham in a Meg movie where he fights a real Megalodon on the set of the Meg.
I also kind of like Jason Statham in the Expendables. I feel like that's a band name that we should sleep on.
Actually, you are so not wrong, and that's remarkable. Jason Statham is also the working man. Like, I mean, come on. It just that every one of his movies should just be Jason Statham. You know, like is the.
Yeah, we could be Jason Statham, middle-aged geeks on film. It could be. Could source it out.
Accent's really bad.
Mine too, to be honest.
Yeah, like I could try. You hear me trying to do it, the Brett Goldstein, and it's really like I can dial in those words because I know I'm doing the exact same words every time, and it's still terrible.
And I got to be honest with you, PJ, I love your voice, but it does sound a little like a 12-year-old Brett Goldstein, the way you do
Well,
it.
I mean, I probably look like a 12-year-old Brett Goldstein, to be fair,
Oh
especially
my
with the
God.
shave. Like we've seen this. I finally got the facial hair back because I was tired of people at the bar telling me I look like I was 12. Like they were like, "Hey,
Yes.
can you be serving alcohol right now?" Motherfucker, the door is that way.
Are you allowed to work on a school night?
I can't. I can't. They hate me because I'm a Yankees fan. It's fine.
I mean, that's righteous. I mean, I get that.
No, it's not. You
I totally
stop
get that.
that.
I
You
totally get that.
stop that. Okay, we have to talk about it real fast.
All right, let's do it.
I'm spending $60 on a book that I definitely don't need, but I definitely pre-ordered the Revenge of the Sith
Oh,
re-release novelization with the annotations.
it is so beautiful looking.
It's so beautiful looking.
It is by far the best adaptation of the Star Wars films.
Oh my god, it's so good. Matthew Stover knows what he's doing.
Maybe one of the best film adaptation novels, even
Ever.
beyond Star Wars. Like just beyond, it's just that good. Matthew Stover knows Star Wars very well. He's written some great books in the Legends category as well. So getting him to come back to do the into annotations for this particular book is just it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal idea. Whoever thought of it, kudos to you. I can't wait to read what was going on in his head as he tried to expand out from Lucas's script. It included some other stuff like, I mean, the internal monologue in this film is probably the most important kind of internal monologue there is in any of the Star Wars movies, getting to get inside Anakin's head during some of this stuff. And Sober delivers, I mean, with aplomb. So I'm very excited this has happened. What a great 20th anniversary present that's going to be.
Dude, we are getting so many cool things towards the back end of this year between that and then Master of Evil is coming out, which is the Darth Vader book.
Yep.
And then we're getting the new Batman book, which I just can't wait for. If you guys didn't read Batman Resurrection, I need you to go read Batman Resurrection. If you love the 89 Batman as much as we do, like it's a direct continuation that picks up 6 months after the end of that movie and like what happens to Gotham in the aftermath of the Joker, and it's a bridge book, and so is the new one, Batman Revelation, between that and Batman Returns, and the way it peppers in all the different characters from Batman Returns and like we start to see the groundwork of them is so good.
Is Revelations also between?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's still that
Yeah.
same time period, so right after Resurrection or
Yeah.
okay, cool. I wasn't sure if it was like doing that, if they're gonna try to bridge other
I
gaps in
think
time or
he
whatever.
says that eventually they want to go past Returns, but from what I understand, it continues to be because it leaves it in a pretty specific place where I think Batman 89 and Batman Returns have a real-time window between the like release. So all that time between, there's time to cover, and it leaves it in a very specific place that you have to answer that stuff before Batman Returns.
And I know it's so specifically coded to Tim Burton and that Batman, Michael Keaton Batman. I'm curious because I know your miles may vary on Batman Forever, but obviously we have the late great Val Kilmer in the role and its new director Joel Schumacher. I don't know if they consider that as part of the canon or not in this particular thing, or whether they're going to get there eventually or not. I wouldn't mind if they did, but I could totally see them deciding that like within this series, these two films were the only ones that were specifically canon to the universe.
That's what he's said in the past.
He said it. He said that. Okay, I didn't have really many interviews with him on it, so okay, that makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's all contained directly to the Burton films. The Burton films. And the thing I really love is, I guess spoiler alert, but Clayface is the villain in the book,
right?
And it's such a cool version of Clayface because it 100% feels like a Tim Burton version of Clayface,
which is what it would have been. Absolutely would have been.
Yeah,
phenomenal,
and it works.
And it's hard to know if they could have done that. I mean, it's a perfect villain choice also because that's one they really would have had a hard time pulling off in 1989, 1990. That time, like to make it really believable and everything else. I feel like
which is why the book is so brilliant about it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's such a great idea. You can use the book format, book media, and they could make like an animated version of it now, and it would work.
Well, and it does the thing that I think makes a lot of sense because there was always rumors that they had tried to get Jack Nicholson to come back in some capacity as Joker. And so the idea that Clayface dons that face and continues to like terrorize the city as under the guise of the Joker is so good.
But I think the best part about that aspect is that they don't like overdo it. It's not like the whole book
No.
is him as the Joker. It's like they use that to like suggest to characters that he might not be dead, and so it's more of like almost like a monster movie in a way. It's almost like,
Yes.
is the Joker dead? We don't know. Like if he came out like just point blank and started beating Jack Nicholson, like terrorizing the art museum, no, he doesn't do that though. It's all like he
It's all
appears
like
somewhere and like,
elaborately
oh,
staged.
I was got to figure out. The detective has to figure out like, is it actually Jack Napier, or is it something else? I don't know what's going on here. It's all confusing.
It's so good,
That's
dude.
well done. John Jackson Miller, phenomenal author. Also, speaking of Star Wars, previously the book, he's another Star Wars author who has some pretty good novels on his side. The
Oh, dude, The
Obi-Wan,
Living Force is
Living
fucking
Force,
excellent.
both excellent books. So the original Obi-Wan Kenobi book from Legends that a lot of people were hoping they were going to adapt for the series. They didn't. It's okay, but it's still definitely a fun read for sure. Getting to know that character as well. Doing some good work in the genre. So good for you, John Jackson Miller, and I can't wait to read the rest of this stuff. I hope your Batman books go on forever.
I hope so too. I hope he gets to, because he's just ridiculously talented, and he really captures. The thing I like about his books is he really captures the voice of the artist that
Mhm.
he is doing the story of, but he finds his own way in, so it's very clearly his own versions of the story, but with the voice of the other artist.
It's a good balance. It's a very good
Yeah.
balance. It's like it has the window dressings of Burton, like it looks like a Burton, it feels a little like a Burton, but it's definitively John Jackson Miller. He's got
Same
his own
thing with
voice.
Living Force, where it's
Yeah.
so clearly John Jackson Miller, but boy, does it feel like George Lucas.
Casey at times, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
I
stuff going
love The
on.
Living Force. I that so It's so funny because I like a lot of the new canon books, and I feel like the 2 that I have liked the most, oddly enough, are the ones that are kind of prequel books, or 3, I should say, rather. Catalyst,
Mhm.
um, The Shadow of the Sith, and Living
Mm.
Legends, and they're all prequels in some capacity to bigger stories,
Right.
but they're all great.
Well, look, I think the best of them are, and the ones who wrote those. Lucino wrote Callus, and he's another phenomenal Star
Yeah,
Wars author as well. It depends on who's read them, because a lot of the books can sometimes those prequel books can seem unimportant because comparatively speaking, it's like, well, the big event happened in the film, so the other book is going to just by nature be less important, right? But
right.
Lucino manages to do it in Catalyst very well, as it just feels, instead of like a prequel, it actually just feels like an extension. So it
Mhm.
still feels like you're telling the same story, and you're just starting the story a little bit earlier. That's all you're going to see the build up to it, which works. Shadows of the Sith and Living Force are far enough detached from the bigger story that it feels like it has its own heartbeat, but it still has relations to future stories as well. And so it's a good connective tissue to it. Instead of just being like this would happen 5 minutes before, and yada yada yada. It works this way. Star Wars has been getting really good at that as well.
Oh, 100%, and I think that you kinda nailed it, is that they feel like expansions, and I think that the best thing you can say about a book like that is that once I read it, I can't see the movie without it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith oddly plays the same way for me, because I read the novel before I saw the movie.
Oh, did
Because
you
the
really?
novel
Oh
ca
wow.
yeah, because the novel came out the
I
month
remember.
before.
I remember that, and I was like, "What?" I still can't believe that happened. Like, and that happened in Phantom Menace as well. I was like,
Yeah, but here's the thing. With Phantom Menace, it was weird. With this one, we kinda just know the outcome, like, we know where it's going.
"I
So it
gotcha."
never really bothered me that they were doing it, because one way or another, we were gonna end up where we knew we were gonna end up.
Right. I mean, I
And
bought it right away, but I did not read it till after, so
oh,
I didn't
I
want to
did. I
spoil the
couldn't.
film.
I had to, and I'm glad I did, because it allowed me to go in knowing what was going on, but it also, there's all these little extensions here and there in the book that really made certain scenes pop in a different way when I watched it.
But did you miss what wasn't there?
No,
Okay.
the one thing, and it's the one thing that'll always drive me nuts, and I'm never going to understand why. I don't know why they never had Liam Neeson record the dialogue at the end of the movie.
Yeah, and that's what we've come like, that was kind of a rumor for a while that he did, and they cut it, but then later on it came out that he never actually recorded it.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
never gonna understand it.
yeah, that
I'm
made no
not,
sense. It doesn't make any
because
sense.
that's the one thing that is missing in that movie.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Well, I would say the other thing that I would like to have seen re-added, but I understand that it was cut due to time constraints. Like they didn't want to have a 3-hour movie, which Nowadays, seems like it's weird. I almost wonder if they made it like nowadays, whether they would have gone ahead and done it, but especially as a final Star Wars story, which it was kind of at the time, like the expansion of Padme and the delegation of 2000 and the politics side of things that you're getting Mon Mothma, Bail Organa together and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of liked that stuff, and I've seen deleted scenes from it. I understand that George Lucas' reason it was timing, and B, that the story is Anakin Skywalker's, and we need to see things mostly from his perspective. And I get that as well, but I think it was a nice addition onto it. I've seen a cut which adds it back in. I like it still. I think it's kind of a fun cut to watch. But your miles may vary on that as well.
Yeah, I would have liked to see that stuff left in too. The nice thing is we're kind of getting some of that now in like the different books. We're getting a whole trilogy about like the rise of the rebellion and stuff, which I love.
Delegates, and they actually like point some of that stuff out. Like I read the first Mask of Fear book, which I came out, or Mask of Fear is the name of the book, and it's Reign of the Empire is the series. It's 3 books. One they're all centering on Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and Saw Gerrera as the 3 architects of the rebellion in different capacities or whatever. And like it's from their points of view, but they're always like not like a connected trilogy and like it's one story. It's like slices of time with those 3. And the first one was really kind of cool, but it definitely delved into some of the stuff we were talking about with Padme during that time frame. And it's a great, fascinating, like there's a fascinating concept towards the end of one of the books. Mon Mothma basically pontificated in her head because she has some struggles with Bail Organa as far as like what they should be doing, and she felt like Padme was like the glue that held them together. And so, what would have happened if Padme had survived and with the rebellion had been quicker to form and powerful? It really lionizes Padme in a way that she deserves to be.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that was the thing that I loved about Obi-Wan, frankly, because I tear up every time he goes back and sees Leia for the last time.
Yeah,
and they have the conversation. And the thing that has always stayed with me is that he clearly lionizes Anakin, not Vader, but he really lionizes Padme and is like, you are the best of your mother and you will continue her fight. And you can, it's so good. It's so good.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. I do wish that they had left some of that stuff in Revenge of the Sith only because Padme is such a strong character in Attack of the Clones, and it seems a little weird that she's basically like kind of just cut out and then just dies. Like she's sad and sad and sad, and then Anakin kills her.
Right. It's like okay.
And you're like, oh, that sucks. Like I wish that they had done more with her because I do love her, and I mean it's Natalie Portman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow, we made it a whole 18 minutes and we haven't even brought up the fact that we're here to talk about Captain America: The First Avenger. I can't believe it.
Oh, is that what we're here to?
No, I mean that it's so funny because there's some like news stuff that's dropped that I almost brought up, but it's almost weird to do it because once this goes live for everyone that's not on Patreon later in the year, it'll be really confusing because it's
breaking news.
Yeah, it's breaking news in April when we recorded this. But I'll say this, and the movie will already have been out by the time I ask you about this now. Did you watch the I Know What You Did Last Summer trailer?
I actually have not seen it yet. I didn't get a chance to. I saw that it's out, but I didn't get a chance to see it.
So good.
Okay.
I love it. So I think the thing I like the most is that they're not reinventing the wheel, but also like everything that happened, and the surviving cast members are like trying to be. I just liked it. I liked the way they were doing it.
Good.
And Freddie Prinze Jr. being in a movie again just feels. I'm like, is it the 90s? I'm so happy, but is it the 90s again?
I will say, you mentioned it to me too, and I'll bring it up here. Like I've seen some screenshots and stuff, or some like promotional shots or whatever, and man, he looks good.
He looks really good, dude.
He's better than he has in years. Like I'm like, oh wow, what is this? Are these airbrushed? Are these fashion?
No, he's just a handsome man. Yeah. That Freddie Prinze Jr. is a handsome fucking man.
He is indeed.
You know, what are we supposed to say? He always has been. He was always a heartthrob, but he's a handsome man.
Absolutely. And also to date ourselves as well, tonight is the night that Andor season 2 comes back. That's where we are, folks.
Yeah, Andor comes back tonight. By the time you're hearing this, if you're not on the Patreon, it has come and gone considerably.
Yes, and we're not talking about a season 3. That's not happening unless something shockingly.
No, it already
develops.
happened. It was called Rogue
3?
One.
There you go. The sequel.
It was called Rogue One.
Oh yeah, they're working on the sequel. They're working on the sequel to Rogue One called A New Hope. It's going to come out
soon. Actually, I think that came out in 1977.
Oh, really? We're messing with time a lot.
The weirdest thing about saying that is that actually this weekend, though, not only do we get this, but this weekend, Revenge of the Sith is back in theaters.
It is. It is. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see.
Are you going?
See that on the big screen. Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know what day yet, but I'm definitely gonna pick out a day.
I really want to. I don't know if I'm gonna have time. It's kind of a weird weekend. Like the timing is not great for me, so I may end up missing it on the big screen again, which is gonna break my heart because it's so good. But I mean, I saw it 7 times initially in theaters when it came out.
And my number's somewhere around there. So
yeah, and then I've seen it at least twice since, because I did do the episode 1 through 7 marathon when it came out at the LCAP.
Nice.
And I did episode 1 through 8 at the LCAP. And so so I've probably seen it 9 times in theaters. Oh my God, I sound like a psychopath. I sound like a psychopath.
Well, you are, and that's okay.
I mean, probably, but that's beside the point.
I don't know if I have seen it in the theaters since like it was in the theaters. Like I don't know. I don't go to very many anniversary showings and everything else, and I don't think it's been like they didn't have a 10th anniversary showing or anything like that. So I think this might be the first time. I didn't go to any of the marathons. So
10 times. 10 times. I saw it at Celebration when they brought it in 3D.
There you go. There you go.
Because that was in 20.
Right.
20. So it was the 2015 Celebration in Anaheim when they brought it, because they couldn't release it because they did the 3D post conversion. Phantom didn't do that well, so they never released it, but they brought it to Celebration. Right. So I've seen it 10 times because once was in 3D. Gotcha. And it was a really great 3D post conversion.
Damn. Wish we had gotten that on the big screen in the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's one of those I'm always going to be upset about it because ultimately, like, the work on it was already done.
Yeah, just put it out
like
there.
I kind of wish that they had just done it, and like I know that it's 3D being a thing was always a problem, because your mileage may vary, but that was one of the better versions of it, I thought, because I felt like it really added weight to the sequences, and it was really good at just being more engrossing in the way that it added depth.
Right.
Because there's so many big star battles. There's so many, there's so much happening like that the 3D actually worked. Because usually I find 3D doesn't work because it's not necessary. But in this one, it actually added to a lot of the worlds and things like that.
I mean, I think it feels like that's the kind of movie that would work better with being enveloped and everything else, especially like that opening battle sequence over Coruscant must have been phenomenal 3D.
It was unreal.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's make it to our next MCU film that we are watching here. We are watching Captain America, the First Avenger. This is what came out in 2011, and it is directed.
That old already.
I know. Directed by Joe Johnston, of course, your boy.
My boy Joe Johnston, sir. My boy Joe Johnston.
By Christopher Marcus and Steve McNeely, and this was Chris Evans' first appearance in the MCU, and who knew how big he was going to be associated with the MCU after this? Probably number 2 behind Robert Downey Jr. at this point.
Well, the funniest thing about that too is you have to remember when Evans took the role, he was a guy that everyone liked, but he was not exactly breaking through like the A-list wall. He was definitely not the guy that you thought was going to be in these movies. He'd already done a handful of comic book movies to varying degrees that were like fine. But he was doing stuff like Cellular and Not Another Teen Movie and, some cheesy rom-coms and things like that. He was not the guy that you thought they'd go to, but it also made sense because as they had laid the groundwork, Downey Jr. had been basically down and out. Like he had done like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and some smaller things at that point, but he was still not like a huge actor. Hemsworth was a no name. Norton was arguably the biggest actor that they had at the time.
Yeah.
And so they were like, okay, Evans is the guy. And they couldn't have picked a better person for the role because you needed someone who felt like the everyman, and Evans is perfect for that.
Which is funny when you say that, because I think the personalization of Captain America has got to now through the film. We understand that better. But when Captain America was announced, Captain America is this larger than life superhero leader of the armed forces. Like, I think people have a disconnection about Captain America is and what it should be, and I think actually, in a way, made people misunderstand the character to a degree. Because I agree with you, because he does do that well. But like you mentioned before, some of these projects he had, Fantastic Four, Johnny Storm, that felt more like Chris Evans' speed. The
Right,
cocky,
100%.
young, like
hothead,
crass hothead, womanizer. That felt like the role we were going with. And then so you put him in there, and all of a sudden it's a completely different role for him. But not only does he take it, he knocks it out of the park, and he becomes Steve Rogers in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's wild just how quickly that turned around, and I think it's so funny because once he did this, you look at his career after, and he actually starts getting some more interesting projects along the way, where he's doing stuff like Puncture and all these, like, smaller movies or
Snowpiercer.
things that allowed him to
With
start.
Ed Harris.
Yes, correct, with Mr. Ed Harris. But he's and he even got to direct his own movie.
Yeah.
Which was cool, and I really liked that movie. The name is escaping me. It's Before We Go, I think, or something like that.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
Right. We're out of
and
down. Out of
yeah, we're far away from that these days. But
fighting shape.
it's so it is. I believe it is Before We Go. It's
It is Before
very
We Go. Yes,
yeah,
I just
Before We
confirmed it.
Go, and it's very kind of a before sunrise type movie about two people who meet in New York one night. It's really good. It's really charming. So Evans really starts to take off here, but the funniest thing is we were texting back and forth a little bit last night. I love this movie. Spoiler alert, this is one of my like top 3 MCU films. I adore this movie to pieces. Everyone listening right now is just so shocked that I love the Joe Johnston Captain America movie. I just know it.
Wait, PJ loves the Rocketeer in the MCU? What the hell?
What? No. I don't totally have a Rocketeer tattoo just straight up my forearm. What? No. I watch this movie, and every time I am taken aback by the holy shit, look at this cast. Because of all the MCU movies to this point, no movie has a better cast than this. It is stacked to the brim with a who's who of character actors that you love and people that you recognize, whether it's Tommy Lee Jones, whether it's Hugo Weaving, whether it's Haley Atwell, whether it's Dominic Cooper, whether it's Toby Jones or Neil McDonough, like Stanley Tucci, Derek Luke. It's just full. And like Sebastian Stan, he's not quite that guy yet. Like, he's great in it. And if you're watching Once Upon a Time, you might recognize him, but he's not like that guy yet.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone else is someone in some capacity. And it is amazing. Hell, even Richard Armitage is in this.
Yeah. David Bradley.
The Doctor Who of it all is wild. Jenna Coleman, David Bradley, and Richard Armitage.
By the way, my notes I got to be honest with you. In my notes, I wrote Doug Bradley at first. Like, this is not, Pinhead's not in Captain America. David Bradley.
Yeah, that'd be a little weird. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal cast. And again, that same connection that you had, I kept going, oh my God, I forgot this person was in this film. Oh, this person. Oh, that's right. Some of them being just like coming up, some of them being like veterans that like I'm not surprised that they made appearances in a way, but like it still felt like you got them to do kind of a smaller role. Good for you. Yeah. I mean, Iron Man might have helped out a lot at this point. The Iron Man made a blast enough on the screen, like in the cultural zeitgeist, right. That like we're like, you know what, we could do a fun comic book movie. Let's see what this is all about.
I think it helps too that once Thor was happening, because it would have been in production roughly around the same time,
right?
And you had Anthony Hopkins. Like Anthony Hopkins is in that movie. So suddenly someone like Tommy Lee Jones, who, let's be real, Tommy Lee Jones does just about anything for a paycheck these days.
Yes.
And even back then, he still kind of was. But you still got Tommy Lee Jones. And the best part is his character is so great because he's just Tommy Lee Jones. And you don't care because it's Tommy Lee Jones.
And Tommy Lee Jones plays Tommy Lee Jones, playing Tommy Lee Jones almost all the time. As a colonel in the Army at this point, it felt just perfectly cast for PLD. He had the gruff exterior you want, the no nonsense bullshit, but he had that kind of a wry sense of humor in the background. He's perfect for this kind of. He's perfect for this guy.
Still skinny.
Still skinny.
Yeah. Does cyanide give you the rumbly tumblies too? I just every little bit of dialogue that he has in it, we are going to have a conversation later that you are not going to enjoy, just makes me laugh every single time. He's so good in it, man.
So good.
Look at him. He makes me cry. When he's talking to Stanley Tucci. And God, how good is Stanley Tucci in this? We could talk about the movie, but I'm just the cast alone. Everyone is having so much fun, and Stanley Tucci might be having more fun than literally anyone in the movie.
I honestly would say he's having more fun in this role than anybody else would have had in this role. He took this kind of like underappreciated role and just had fun with it, and just really kind of took it, owned it, went with it, and like just took it to a place that it needed to go because Chris Evans at this point is not he's not the guy yet. You kind of need somebody to kind of boost you up while you're getting to be the guy. Stanley Tucci understands what he's doing. He makes Chris Evans shine, which is what a good supporting actor does. He gives Chris Evans the basis to work on to have those great moments, and he has those great moments. Talking about whether they wait, so we're not drinking. You have a procedure tomorrow. I don't have the procedure tomorrow.
Did you ever see why he took the role?
Stanley Tucci?
Yeah.
No, I never did.
He just wanted to do a German accent. That was it. He had never done a German accent in a movie, and he was like, I want to do a German accent. That's why he took the role.
Yeah.
It's the most real thing in the entire world. He just wanted to try to do a German accent.
Whatever it takes. He does.
I just think it's so funny.
Yeah, I do
too. Like, I think that is so hysterical in all the best ways, where it's like, all he wanted to do was do a German accent.
Absolutely. And you know who else is having fun? I got to throw it out there. Hugo Weaving. Just having so much fun. There's conversations about Marvel villains that they can come one note or that they're whatever. Hugo Weaving takes this role and does exactly what you're supposed to do in this kind of movie. Is it cartoonish? Absolutely. Is it over the top? Absolutely. But it's done it with such like dedication and aplomb, and like
he's so good in this. And dude, and the makeup on the Red Skull is ridiculous. Like, it's so good. It blows my mind every time when he finally pulls the mask off, because he's wearing the skin to look, he wants to look human. Right. Because obviously he doesn't walk around looking like the Red Skull all the time. He wants to look like Johann Schmidt.
Absolutely.
But when he finally pulls the mask off, and you see it for the first time, and he like rubs the head, and he's now fully come into himself as the Red Skull. It is so incredible, and that makeup is amazing, and he looks so good, and I can't not help but love it because it looks remarkable. Like, that is a direct Red Skull from the comics brought to life, and it is just unreal.
It is terrifying. It is engaging. It provides Captain America with the perfect foil in this movie.
Well, and because they hint at the fact that he obviously has the skull underneath, because we don't really know, right? We're kind of wondering if we're going to see the transformation. We don't really know. And then there's this scene where someone is doing an art print of him, and he's completely shadowed, and we don't see him.
Right.
And you're like, oh, that's interesting. And you can tell from the outline that something's not right. Like, from the shadowing, he looks a little different.
Right.
And I just love that. Joe Johnston is one of the most underappreciated filmmakers in Hollywood. And you look at the stuff that he's done, and especially in this, I think this might be, and this is weird to hear me say this might be the best movie he's ever made. Because I think it's the one that allowed him, like, over time. I know.
I will take it back, but okay.
I know. But here's why. Okay. It's 20 years since The Rocketeer, and he's done so much since then. And he's done so much other work and worked in so many other capacities of figuring out special effects and build and all these different things. Because The Rocketeer is like his second movie, because he had done Honey, I Shrunk the Kids before that.
Yep.
So this movie is so much farther down the line. He's learned to pace things. He's learned how to build tension even more. He's learned all these things. This movie kind of feels like a culmination of all of his work for me. And because we also have to remember, just the year before this, he was basically a gun for hire on The Wolfman.
Yeah.
You know, a movie that
It was not well received.
yeah,
Honestly.
not well received, but it was not a movie that he like birthed out of the idea. He gets tossed onto this project by Universal because, well, he did it with Jurassic Park 3. I'm sure he can do it here. You know, he's brought in to save the project, basically to see it over the finish line.
Mhm.
And this movie feels like him going back to his roots a lot in some capacity, because this is a guy who got his start doing like Raiders of the Lost Ark and movies like that, because he's working behind the scenes. He's working with George Lucas. He's he's come from such a specific place. And so this movie feels like the culmination of all of that in some capacity.
No, absolutely. It's Joe Johnston, you said before, worked with the original Star Wars trilogy, worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark and the original and Temple of Doom as well. Did Howard the Duck, Willow,
Fucking
Ambler,
Howard the Duck.
Always with Steven Spielberg, which is not my favorite film, but it shows you working with that kind of director. He actually worked on the Iron Giant, designed the Giant.
Yes, sir, he did.
He's got his hand in a lot of different pies, and I think the people who don't love Joe Johnston work, I think they just don't like. I'm not going to be. I can be snarky and say you don't like good films, but I think it's they might not like pulp. Because he's definitely a very pulpy. That's where he's at his best when he does these pulpy films. Like what it does, because Rocketeer, Captain America, First Avenger, both very pulpy films. The Indiana Jones stuff, pulpy when it's at best. It's a lot of pulp, full chunk full of pulp. And I think that's what he does his best. And if you don't like that kind of film, then I can understand not liking Joe Johnston's work. But if you do like that kind of film, then you're going to love Joe Johnston's filmmaking.
Well, and I mean, look at Jumanji. It's bleeding with pulp. Like that
Absolutely.
first Jumanji movie is nothing but like a throwback pulp adventure series.
Mm-hmm.
It's modern day, but that's exactly what it is. And he's always been good at that. It's honestly probably why I like his Wolfman so much, because he actually infuses it with a lot of that like pulp horror instead of pulp action. But it really works because there is a side of that in it. And again, Hugo Weaving, which I love that he worked with him in that too.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, funny enough, that there's a lot of MCU happening in that movie, actually.
There's a lot of incestuous activity going on at that point, but that's what happens in filmmakers. You make you get to work with people, you like working with them, and all of a sudden you get to make more films with each other because you have a good time together and you want to enjoy your work.
It's wild to me that this ends up being the only time we see Hugo Weaving in the MCU, by the way. Yeah. He is one of the only actors who has not come back in any capacity.
Was there a reason? Do we know if there was a reason?
He didn't want to do it again. He has just been very vocal about it. He just didn't want to go back.
Okay.
Like it was that and The Matrix. I don't know what exactly it was. He seems to be like cool with doing Elrond basically if he's asked, so he'll probably go back. If there's a part for him in the Gollum movie, he will probably be in it.
I would say probably will. I feel like, rightly or wrongly, when you make these kind of legacy sequels or legacy midquels or whatever you're making, that if you can find places to stick in people from the original movies, you're going to do it, especially if it makes sense. And it makes sense if he's there at that time. Yeah. Like if Gandalf's there, Elrond could be there, Kate Blanchett could be there, Galadriel could be there, depending on everything's going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him either, to be completely honest with you.
No, I wouldn't either. So that's the one thing I think we'll see him go back to, but I don't anticipate we ever see him in the MCU again. I mean, obviously at this point, there's not really a reason because they already recast the character. Right. Because, down the line, we do finally see Red Skull again.
Yes, we do.
Because that is one of those great moments. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because where Red Skull's journey in this movie ends, like you see all of time and space basically open, which I love that scene, by the way, because it kind of recontextualizes everything we think about the MCU in some capacity, because it also gives you that shot of like, oh, it's space and all these things. That's like Asgard's probably out there. Like we've already had Thor, but just knowing that they live in the stars, it really opens that world. I love that. And I love that his power trip is basically just taken from him. He was so drunk for trying to find power that he falls into, this. It's very typical ending to a lot of these pulp villains.
Yeah.
It's very Raiders of the Lost Ark. Instead of melting, he gets pulled out into,
to who knows
nothing.
where.
Yeah.
The great unknown. No, and we have some other also, like Haley Atwell's first big role. I mean, she was in The Duchess before that, I think, with Keira Knightley, but like otherwise, this was like her first major role. And she's made a kind of good career about it. Like she just kind of keeps popping back. She got her own series. She kind of keeps popping back. She's going to come back.
She was in S.H.I.E.L.D. for a little bit too.
Yeah, she voiced for Marvel's What If as the Captain Britain type character and everything. Like it's just she's done a good job.
Yeah, and she's really leaned into it.
Yeah, she's leaned into it in the best possible way because she hasn't needed to commit a whole lot to it. It's been kind of like, sure, I'll come back and do a little bit and keep going. She kind of like pays her dues and then goes back and does a little bit more. And she's very, very fun in this film. Getting her to go, she's strong, she's forward. She matches up with Evans very well. She matches up with Tommy Lee Jones very well. She matches up with Dominic Cooper very well. So it kind of fits very, very, very well.
It's the best version of a femme fatale character. But reversed, because they don't lean in on this idea that she's incapable, and I really appreciate that a lot. And it's something that What If has run with, because having her being the one who gets the serum in the end and becoming Captain Britain very similarly, and of course we saw that in live action Multiverse of Madness, which was very, very cool. But this idea that this character could be so strong, and we don't in 2011 we're still having problems processing some of that, I feel like, because you like outside of the Ripleys of the world, or the Sarah Connors, we're not still getting a lot of like strong female heroes. And unfortunately, because of loud sex of the internet, it seems like studios get really resistant in doing that stuff from time to time.
Yeah.
It's why I was so glad that Daisy Ridley got to be the lead of The Force Awakens, because I felt like it was a direct, like, look, women can do this. Like, let girls have female action hero role models in science fiction.
One of the reasons I love Edge of Tomorrow so much, because Tom Cruise is the lead, but Emily Blunt is the strongest character there as far as
far
physicality and everything else.
So in this movie, it's so great because I would argue that if it isn't for Haley Atwell, this movie doesn't work. Her and Chris Evans, number one, the chemistry is ridiculous. Yeah, they're so good, and the relationship, and this is an entire MCU thing. Their relationship, top to bottom, is one of the best things in the entirety of the MCU.
I absolutely agree. And what I also want to throw up there about this is that we don't have to focus on that being the journey, like the fact that she's a female. Like she comes in, she has that first scene where she kind of showcases who she is, where she has the loudmouth, misogynistic soldier guy she puts in his place. But like right after that is Tommy Lee Jones basically saying, "Yep, anybody else?" It's like Tommy Lee Jones respects her, and that's a good sign to start with. You have the Tommy Lee Jones, the gruff, like colonel who's in there respecting her completely. Also, you're like, okay, she fits. We've skipped over the bullshit of it. Now let's see what she's doing going forward. And she supports Chris Evans every which way, which makes it possible. I think it's a strong foot forward for her.
It is, and she gets so many cool action beats. She gets to do so much. It's just such a great character, and one that I'm glad that we got to explore in the TV show, one that we got to explore in other capacities in What If. They've really allowed the character to grow. And I really think that's because Atwell is so damn good in this.
Oh, that's exactly what it is. If she didn't deliver, we wouldn't have heard much about her.
No.
We maybe would have got her at the end of Endgame like we did, because just to follow up Cap's line, but that's about it. I think honestly, you wouldn't have seen her. You definitely would have seen her Multiverse of Madness. You definitely would have seen her get her own series. You definitely would have seen her. She barely would have been talked about.
We deserved another season of that series too. Yeah, I think that it's such a bummer because of all the shows that have like continued on ABC. Like S.H.I.E.L.D. went 6 seasons. I hated that Agent Carter didn't get more love. I know it was also expensive, obviously, because it was a period show, so like that plays a huge part in what it was. But like it was so good. She was so good. That's one of those I can go back and watch that anytime. And it's funny because we were talking about it a little bit last night. Dominic Cooper shows up in that too, because Howard is in that a couple of times.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is like, again, Dominic Cooper is so excellent in this. His version of Howard Stark is so great because you start to see why Tony is the way Tony is.
Yeah.
Because he is, for as much as he thinks in the MCU that his father doesn't love him, and for how much he doesn't think that his father understood him, he is so much like his father when
Oh,
his father is young. And I love that. Like
oh,
it's such a great like, time continues and how close familial aspects can be.
right.
It works.
And that's actually it's a great point. As far as connectivity goes, like one of the criticisms of the film is that it does feel a little disconnected at points, and that is hard to help because of the whole,
The
the
time period.
period piece of exactly. But it does such a good job making it work despite that. We have obviously the Tesseract really kind of bridges that gap a little bit, and it's Howard Stark that really helps that because you have Slattery does a good job in Iron Man, Iron Man 2, all that stuff. But as the younger version, the very Tony Stark version of Howard Stark, Dominic Cooper matches up near perfectly. He acts like him a little bit, almost feels like him a little bit, like still the younger 1940 or 1930s version of him. But like it's definitely the same type of character. And I actually wanted to tackle, like you mentioned, period piece, mentioned timeless. That was part of the reason why people, I think, had premonitions or precedents about the film. But I will say, despite it being a period piece, in that most of it takes place World War II, it doesn't feel like a period piece.
Oh.
It doesn't feel like it. It feels modern despite the setting, and it's not a bad thing. It's a vibe you get. Like it doesn't like feel like it's out of place, but it feels doesn't make it feel like, oh, we're in an ancient time or we can't get in.
Oh.
It feels just like a modern film that we're just telling a story.
Well, part of that is because there's a lot of really cool technology at play because Hydra is using all
Hmm.
these, uniquely cool weapons and things. And of
Slightly
course,
anachronistic versions of things. Yeah,
yeah, and then,
absolutely.
Stark is building stuff and there's like a bunch of really cool things that help it feel a little bit more modern.
Yeah.
It you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? And one of the best things about Raiders is that for it being a throwback pulp film, it does still also feel modern in some capacity.
Yeah.
And I think that that is why I am so drawn to that movie. It's why, again, it's no surprise that I love this movie when I love Raiders and I love
Right.
The Rocketeer and I love stuff like The Shadow. Like that is the type of storytelling Zorro, that stuff has always spoken to me. And
Mhm.
so this really captures that tone, that style, that feel of there's something about the yesteryear of it all where you have a hero in where it's very clearly being made modern day, but it's our version of what it would have been like. And I
Mhm.
think also to your point, this idea that when you see some of the stuff that Hydra has, like this ginormous tank that just never existed and you don't care, like it's fun to see that stuff.
Right.
It's really fun to see like these almost Iron Man like suits that the Hydra soldiers are walking around in. Like
Mhm.
there's all these things that make it so fun and just so pulpy and just so different. And it just feels good. And
Yeah.
it's such a bummer because this movie cost quite a bit to make,
Yeah.
understandably. The money shows.
Oh,
That's one
definitely.
thing I you can say like it you can see how it looks. You can see how much they put into it. The set design is remarkable. This movie did
Absolutely.
not do very well.
No, it didn't.
Like,
There were
it barely made $300,000,000.
3 7, yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, like
That's Yeah, that's nothing in that world at this point. Considering it's like it almost feels like we're getting told all the time if a movie doesn't make $1 billion now, it's like a failure. And the MCU is failing now because it's not making that. But Captain America did not make nearly $1 billion. It didn't get even
it was
close.
the lowest grossing by qu like, outside of Hulk, this was the lowest grossing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's saying something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact of the matter is at that point, Avengers was looking real shaky
Yeah. The less we
because
had delivered, else
yeah,
we probably wouldn't be here.
right, because if this continues a trend, you're in trouble.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of people who worry about a movie like this being very like rah rah America, very in your face about what it is. One of the things I really love about this movie is that they really capture that Captain America is not necessarily rah rah America. It's about rah rah like
Right thing.
humanity and spirit
Doing the right thing.
and
Yeah.
doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that is lost on a lot of people,
I agree.
and it really boggles my mind because this whole movie is not about being like pro-military or pro-America. It's about being pro-humanity. It's about being bigger than the bully. And like, I mean, he says it. I hate bullies. He's been bullied his whole life. It's about using your brain and just trying to put bullies back in their place. And I've always really appreciated that it didn't go out of its way to be like a glowingly just American thing. It's about a man who wants to make the world better. Like, he's going to war to make things better. He wants so badly to be in this fight because he just wants to push back on bullies.
Absolutely. And it's about perseverance. And the first time we hear that line, the famous line is going to follow Captain America for the rest of his MCU career. I can do this all day.
I can do this all day.
I can do this all day.
I love when he pulls the trash can lid off and he holds it like it's the shield for the first time.
And yeah, it still does nothing. Like it's just
yeah. Once again, and it's the thing we have to talk about. I always hear that about the Whedonification of the MCU post the Avengers, but this movie is chock full of that stuff too.
Absolutely.
There's so many like one-liners and little things throughout. Him picking up the shield for the first time once Stark has like worked on the tech, and Haley Atwell looks at him and she pulls the gun out and she shoots at him, and because she's so mad that she saw him kissing that other woman, and she goes, "Yeah, yes, I think it works." And just little things like that, and the looks on their faces, and then Steve just like he can't look away, and he just hands Howard the note. And he goes, "I had some thoughts on the suit," and he goes, "Whatever you want, pal." Like no one's willing to cross her at that point.
No,
like
absolutely.
God, Agent Carter's just such a great character, dude.
Yeah. She definitely shines more than anybody else in the film. Obviously, I think because Chris Evans like becomes Captain America during the course of this film, but Carter is like Agent Carter is there from the beginning to like really just land. You don't know, no like development needed for her. She just comes in. She is. I don't mean that in a negative way, like she doesn't get a character, because she does. Obviously, her character does develop in terms of her relationship to Steve and relationship to Tommy Lee Jones in a way, and Howard Stark in a way, like all these things that are doing. But the character itself just pops right away, is what I mean. And like she's crystal clear, this is who this character is.
Dude, 100%. And I have to say, for the time it was made and the way that they did it, this is a technology thing. But one of the things that this movie really has going for it, they really nail Steve Rogers' look pre the serum.
Yeah, I was very impressed with that. I was very impressed.
It holds up.
It does. It doesn't look like I still can go like, how do they do that? Like, how do they really do that and make it work so flawlessly without seeing the cracks in the design, so to speak? It just works. That's what it is. I know it's a combination of like a stand-in and some visualizations and everything else, but it doesn't look like a lot of technology is always like, well, like Tarkin and Rogue One. It's like looks great. Could use some improvement. We see the cracks in the facade, so to speak. Leia in Rogue One as well, and that's gotten better to the point where like Luke Skywalker in the Mandalorian season 2,
or even Indy in Dial of Destiny.
Indy of Doubt. There it is.
53 minutes.
I was queuing up for that one.
Like, I knew you were. I knew what you were doing.
Better and better as we go along, but there's still like some kind of cracks in it. This doesn't have a crack in it at all. Like right away. But I know it's different. What they're doing is different. But it's in that same ballpark. I feel like it works, but it works so very well.
No, 100%. It's really, honestly, very impressive. Do you remember the first still photos that came out from the production of the movie?
I don't.
So they were shooting the scene set in Brooklyn when he's chasing down Richard Armitage's character.
Right.
And Chris Evans had these fucking fake feet on because he's running barefoot.
Right.
So, but in the set photos, he's wearing these large fake feet. And everyone was like, what is going on? Because he has to be able to run, but you have to make it look like he's barefoot. So I'm sure that some of it was fixed in post, but it was so funny because I remember people going, what is happening? And it's just these large fake feet that he had on so it could look like he was running barefoot through the Brooklyn streets.
It's Cap the Hulk version of him, basically.
Yeah, 100%. And then you watch the movie, and it's so funny because like seeing that and then seeing how it's shot in the movie, they really try not to pan down to his feet while he's running. And if they do, it's very clearly been touched up.
Right.
And it just makes me laugh every single time because I was like, oh, it's the feet. It's the fake feet. I remember now. It's the really bad fake feet.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's funny.
it was one of those things. And that was like,
next time I look, I'll take a look at that and see if I can find it and see.
Yeah, I'll look later to see if I can find some of the photos too, because it really made me laugh. Do you remember who almost got the role before Evans?
No, who was it?
There's two. The ones that stand out, one was John Krasinski.
Really? That far back, huh? Okay.
Mm-hmm. The other was Will Smith.
I do remember conversations about that. I
do
remember that. Man,
Isn't that wild?
That would have changed a lot of different things at that point.
That would have been very different.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I can't even imagine Big Willie as Captain America, if I'm being completely honest.
No, it's not a role for him. It really isn't. He's too
Will Smith.
Too Will Smith, too wisecracky. That's like Captain America's not a wise ass.
No.
Will Smith doesn't work when he's not being a wise ass, or doesn't work nearly as well anyway. If you're going to have Will Smith in the role, you have Will Smith be Will Smith, and Will Smith's not Captain America.
No. It's just so interesting to think about that, though, because that's an entirely different timeline. So somewhere out in the multiverse, there's a version of this movie that exists with Will Smith in the lead.
There's a lot of people up for this, I guess, at one point.
Yeah, I mean, everyone. Yeah, I was going to say Tatum was up for the role at one point. Now he's officially in the MCU.
That's true. Glenn Powell, young Glenn Powell at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Jensen Ackles, wow.
Yeah, like everyone. I mean, they were testing everyone at that point.
Yeah.
So that's always so interesting to me.
Yeah, 100%. Wow.
And it's just fascinating when you look at how this movie came together, how small it felt in some capacity, how commercially not super great that it did.
Right.
But yet, I think that it's only gotten better with age. I think this is a movie that continues to be reevaluated. That was something we were talking about before we started recording, is that I think that over time, and this is something that I see happening still with the MCU, certain projects, while they may not be super beloved out the gate, continue to be rewatched and reevaluated as the MCU goes, and they seem to get folded in and become more beloved as it happens. And I think this movie in particular, because Evans is so good, because Cap has this arc that from here all the way to Endgame seems consistent and so well done, that every time you go back and watch it, you fall in love with it a little more. And yet it also gets tied in a little more, whether it's Red Skull showing up in Endgame, whether, these little things throughout, Howard Stark, the way he does certain things, the way that Winter Soldier's eventually brought in, all these things continue to play through. And now here we are with Thunderbolts coming out in just a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And Bucky is now a leading man versus just being a side character.
Right. And that was a great development. That's one of my favorite developments in the MCU, because Sebastian Stan really makes a standout performance in this as well. We haven't mentioned it hardly at all in this episode. I think because we were concentrating on oh my God, I'm surprised this person was in the film.
Well, and then we've just been gushing about literally every other person in the movie.
Absolutely. We should take our time and gush on Sebastian Stan. He really is.
Here's your flowers, Sebastian Stan. You are wonderful.
He's one of the beating hearts of the film, honestly. I mean, you could say Hallie Atwell is, and Chris Evans is, and I get that, and I agree. But there's something about Bucky and Steve's friendship that is just another beating heart of the film, and it really establishes Sebastian Stan as a player in the MCU going forward. I mean, to be completely honest, Bucky's probably one of my favorite characters in the MCU because he has great appearances. I can't wait for Thunderbolts. He's one of the reasons why getting him to lead the team now after all this time. It's good stuff, man. He's funny, he's serious, he's emotional, he can do all of it, and it works.
Well, and they talked about it a lot when they were trying to cast the character. They needed someone who had a darkness underneath, because clearly whether they got there or not, if you're casting Bucky, the one thing you have to think about is that if you cast that character, the potential of doing a Winter Soldier storyline is now in play.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to consider this idea that we need someone who is going to look way different by the time we get to the Winter Soldier storyline. Someone who was super loving and like Cap's best friend and this whole character, and then can be dark and look foreboding and look evil, basically, and just like devoid of human. And they really picked the right guy for that, because there is a darkness underneath his eyes that you can see.
Yeah, and he actually auditioned for, I believe he auditioned for Cap as well. Initially, he was one of the ones who auditioned for Cap. He wouldn't fit as a Cap, but he does fit perfectly as Bucky, as Winter Soldier.
100%. And it's so funny because he's a great Bucky. He's even better Winter Soldier. And I know that Feige was like, that was his whole thing. He was like, he's going to make a good Bucky, but he's going to make a great Winter Soldier. And he was right.
Yeah.
And again, it's wild to think about. This came out in 2011. It's now 2025. We're 2 weeks away from Thunderbolts being released. And all signs point to, again, if you're listening to this in December, past like this being on the Patreon, we already know if the movie is good or not. But all signs point to this movie's hugely great. The embargo lifts 10 days before the movie even comes out. They're already doing screenings of it, I think, today for fans across the country. Like,
good sign.
Great sign. They know what they have.
Yeah, and they want to build up that. And the only question mark at this point is it out there enough? Because we obviously, Captain America: Brave New World, like it or not, your miles may vary. It was definitely polarizing. Not some people didn't like it a lot. It's got a little bit.
And it didn't do huge business.
Didn't do huge. We have the big film coming out in the summer with Fantastic Four: The First Steps that everybody's looking forward to. It's kind of got that. Thunderbolts kind of has, unsurprisingly, has that kind of Black Widow kind of thing going on, where like you're between the movies you really want to see. People want to see Brave New World because it was the next step in the new direction. Fantastic Four, big time first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where Black Widow was between the Avengers movies. It felt like, okay, well, we're going to have to get this until we get to the real one.
You're right.
Wrong.
Yeah.
It was wrong.
You also know what's so interesting? First Steps feels in tone and look the most like first Avenger than any other MCU movie.
Well, because it has a retro feel to it. That's
100%. But isn't that interesting?
It is. It is very interesting, and I think it's going to be telling. It's going to be telling. I wonder if it. I mean, some people have basically. Most people come out saying they love that idea because it is so different from the MCU, and that's kind of a cool thing. But so did this, and this is kind of like this was a first step this way, but it almost felt like maybe it was too early for some people.
For some people.
Right.
I'm super curious, man, because
could it affect it? Could it go the other way and actually be a net detriment to it to some people? Maybe. I don't know.
I love that trailer, the new one that they just released. It is so good. And we finally actually see Reed stretch, and it looks good.
It does. I think it does.
Like for the first time ever in live action.
As good as it can. As good as it can, absolutely.
It's always going to look a little goofy.
It's going to look wonky. It's a live action guy stretching is going to look strange, and you can't pull it off in live action like you can in animation or in comic books. It's not. It just doesn't happen. But it does look pretty good considering.
And dude, there's a shot at the very end of the trailer of like from our point of view of Galactus stepping in the middle of the street. And it gave me fucking goosebumps.
It's 100% a practical effect of a big Galactus walking on a miniature set. That's what it was, and it looks better for it. Instead of trying to CGI it, I would guarantee that was an actual full 100% physical effect, and that's why it looks so good. It kind of it feels earthy and lived in. It feels viable. It feels physically there.
It's so funny because love or hate the Eternals, and eventually we will get to it. One of the things I love about that movie is that at the very end, when the Celestial shows up, it was the first time I realized what it was going to feel like to see Galactus done properly on the big screen. And then these trailers have only heightened my feeling of that, because it makes me feel small. I'm actually going to try to see First Steps in a proper IMAX. I might have to drive up to Phoenix to do it, but I genuinely want to see it in a proper IMAX of that scale and feel it. I want to so badly. Anyway, back to Sebastian Stan.
Well, before you do that, I want to slip one more thing in there about it. I will say, actually, the funny thing is, despite everything you just said, I'm actually more excited for Thunderbolts than I am for Fantastic Four. And I feel weird saying it, but that's how I feel right now. I just feel like I'm in Thunderbolts right now. I feel like I'm into it. And I want it.
Here's
Fantastic
the
Four.
thing. It also helps that we love that cast.
Yeah, that definitely helps. That definitely helps.
Because we know that cast. Like, everyone in that movie, we know.
Not only that, but the last trailer they did for Thunderbolts really like hit it out of the park for me in terms of
all of them have been so good too.
The first two were exactly what I thought it was going to be, and the third one gave more depth than I thought it might have. Like, is there going to be depth to it? There's also going to be depth to this film. Okay, now you've really sold me about 100% of the film, so I'm excited.
I'll say this: I think it's going to be a home run. I think it's the home run that they need. I also think, I hate to say it, it's going to do the thing that everyone's been wanting for a while, which is everyone's been chasing Suicide Squad. Yep. Suicide Squad was chasing Guardians of the Galaxy, and so they never really and I like the gun one more than most people.
Me too.
That movie seems a lot more polarizing than I anticipated, but it's also James Gunn with a budget. And I get it. Your mileage may vary at that point because it is very James Gunn with a budget.
I think part of it also is because it felt, to some people, surface level wise, to be repetitive. It's like, so 100%. You basically just did Guardians of the Galaxy again with the DC heroes. Let's do something else, James. Kind of thing.
Yeah, that's also fair. I think it's, I'll give you that. However, I think that this ends up being Marvel doing their Suicide Squad in some capacity.
Right.
And showing you that it can be done. But again, it becomes the thing that we have talked about time and again. It's all about how you build to it. And it helps that we know these characters. Yes. The biggest problem with both Suicide Squad movies, not that we need to go down this rabbit hole, but here we are. But the biggest problem is that you're actually building that around a lot of characters that people don't know. So you're taking the time to have to set all of them up. That is arguably the problem with both those movies. And so you don't have to do that here. In Thunderbolts, you get to it, and we know these characters.
Thunderbolts is doing what Avengers did in a more minor capacity, but like it's going to work because of that. I think we know Bucky. We've lived with Bucky for a long time. We know who John Walker is, and we're actually kind of intrigued that he was the best thing out of Falcon Winter Soldier. Was the most memorable thing about Falcon Winter Soldier to me was John Walker. Yeah. And then you have all these Yelena and
Florence Pugh is huge. Yeah.
David Harbour's hilarious, and you want to see more.
Red Guardian's such a great character.
Absolutely. So the only character you really have to establish is Bob, the Sentry. Basically, they have to establish that.
I love Bob.
Yeah, I do too.
Dude, that first trailer when it's showing the names of all the people involved, and it goes and Bob, is just it's so on point and it's so good, and it's straight out of the Hateful Eight. That's 100%. The funniest thing to me, because if you've seen the Hateful Eight, if you know, you know, but everyone in that movie has all these super specific names, and then there's one guy in the group whose name is Bob. And you're like, oh, there's something's wrong here. That dude's name is not Bob. Everyone else has all these names, and Bob? Absolutely not Bob. No, sir. There's more to you than that.
And Louis Pullman is fantastic, so I can't wait to see him in the role.
Dude, he has got his dad's charisma.
He really does. I've seen him in a bunch of things now, and every time I see him, I think he was honestly a standout in Top Gun Maverick.
He sure was as Bob.
Right, exactly. He is great.
Legitimately, once again, as Bob.
In front of Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer, and Glenn Powell in his star-making role, everybody kind of was oh yeah, but Pullman, Bob, that was fun. Bob. And of course, for me, I'm going to throw it out there again. Bob? Twice in one episode now. He was in Riff Raff in January as the son of Ed Harris, along with
Jesus Christ,
Bill Murray and Pete Davidson and Jennifer Coolidge. Great film, by the way. You really should take a look at it. It's really fun.
I know. It's on digital. I'll probably... you have been badgering me for months to watch this, and it finally hit digital, and I think I'm just going to buy it to shut you up.
Thank you.
I hate to say it that way, but I think I'm finally going to buy it just to shut you up.
That and my best friend Zoe, both of them go. You should get them both. So.
You motherfucker, stop making me spend money. Do you know how badly I want to go to Universal, to go to Epic Universe, and every time I turn around, you're sending me stuff. You're as bad as Kyle Ratcliffe, my friend Kyle, who listens to our podcast, who keeps sending me goddamn links on for the new Amazon 4K deals, and he's like, here, get more stuff. Not that I need more, but you guys are just the worst. You're trying to get me to spend money because I'll do it.
Hey, What can I say, my friend? You won't regret it. You'll thank me later. Do it for Bob.
I hate you.
Do it
But
for Bob.
fine. What about Bob? Bill Murray classic. You see, I made that joke the first time, but you ignored it. But
I did.
Threw it back in, and it made you laugh.
True, that's true.
I
But also,
moments.
It's even connected more because Bill Murray is also in Riff Raff, so it makes even more sense.
You are just incorrigible today.
I am. I am indeed. Hey, you have your bits. I have mine. We gotta stick to them.
I know. We gotta. You know who we haven't brought up in a while in the podcast? Bruce Campbell. But I have no reason to do it right now, and that makes me sad.
Wait, Multiverse of Madness is coming.
Actually, you know what was so funny, and it made me feel ancient. Was I saw it earlier today. Bloody Disgusting posted that it was 7 years ago today that Ash versus Evil Dead got canceled. And I was like, how has it been 7 years since that happened?
Oh my God, 7 years.
I remember going to San Diego Comic-Con to go to the Ash versus Evil Dead panel.
Yeah.
Like for the first time. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but I guess it got canceled that long ago already.
Damn, that's so disheartening. That's disheartening about life in general.
Just want. Where's my? Well, we're getting a new movie at least, so at least there's that.
There you go, and we will get to Multiverse of Madness eventually. Honestly,
we brought it up 3 times now. In my life,
we brought it up a couple of times now. I do want to say I'm looking forward to doing that film, and I'm looking forward to the absolute hate mail we're going to get afterwards.
Oh, dude, people are going to be so mad. If you think that I'm annoying about my love for Guardians of the Galaxy and First Avenger, you've seen nothing yet.
Well, because those movies are actually pretty, like, at least somewhat liked. That Multiverse of Madness, I don't find many people supporting outside of the two of us. That's all right.
So a couple of weeks ago, I was at my friend's birthday party. They had this thing at their house, and I'm sitting there, and we're all just kind of bullshitting and talking on the couch, and one of their friends is sitting behind us, and he goes, yeah, dude, the Marvel movies are so bad now. There's not been a single good movie in all of Phase 4 and Phase 5 outside of Shang-Chi, and I fucking turned at him, and I was all, you're so full of shit. I was like, Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home exist, you friggin' monster. And he was all, you can't like Multiverse of Madness, and everyone actually around me was all, what are you talking about? Multiverse of Madness is great, and everyone else went in on this one person who frankly speaking, is always trying to be contrarian. Okay. So it plays a part in their frustrations about it. I knew he was poking me. He was doing it on purpose because he was trying to get me going, and it worked. But here's the thing: I backed off, and everyone else.
I'm glad that it happened because you're the only person I know that ever supports my love for that film. So,
well, I think that we also live in a very different chamber than like the modern day audience.
True.
True. We have to remember, we are more involved in like an inner circle where people are a lot more critical for the dumbest reasons. And that movie made almost $1 billion. Movies don't make almost $1 billion if people don't enjoy it.
True. Good point. Absolutely good point.
That is the thing that I have to hammer home so frequently with a lot of the people in our inner circle. Like, say what you will about the Michael Bay Transformers movies. Guess what? 4 of the 5 that he made over $1 billion. That means 4 of the 5 of them people enjoyed. It doesn't mean that I did.
It also doesn't mean they're necessarily good films. We're not arguing
but it means people liked that.
People did enjoy them, and that's actually, honestly, sometimes all that matters.
Right. And that's what I have to remind people. And so, once again, you may not like a thing, but money doesn't dictate quality one way or the other.
Right.
Because this movie's great. It made $370 million.
Comparatively, it's nothing else compared to a lot of the other MCU films, but it's among one of my, I don't want to say favorite like yours. It's not like top 5 for me, but I think it's definitely upper tier for me. Absolutely.
I think it's so interesting too. So a lot of the complaints about this movie end up revolving around the film's kind of middle act once he becomes Captain America and once he's in the war. And I've never quite understood that because I feel like you get a lot of what you need in this sequence. Not only once he becomes Cap, but like before he becomes Captain America, but like he is now Steve Rogers with the super serum, and he's doing all these like USO shows.
Right.
All this stuff is great, and it leads directly into him finally becoming Captain America. And the things that I like about that is we're building the character, and I don't I think that people want this to be like a bigger action-y type of movie, but the truth of the matter is that we get a lot of that in the montage, and it all works. All that stuff with the Howling Commandos is great because it's also all character built, and I think that people misinterpret what they think they want sometimes, as weird as that sounds.
I feel like they wanted a gritty war movie,
Yeah, but
and,
that's
like,
not what this is.
no, Captain America is not a gritty war movie. You could have a war and have it be meaningful, but not be in the weeds for it, like so deep into the weeds for it. I'm not saying those films are bad. Those films absolutely have their place. Saving Private Ryan,
Oh, yeah.
1970, they all have like great
Fury.
moments. Fury, another one, great moment. Like Thin Red Line, they have some great lived-in moments, and it's dark, and it shows the horror of war. And but that's what those films are doing. They're showcasing. This is basically the war is a set piece to develop
Right.
the positivity and the determination of our character, Captain America, before he gets to today's MCU. So this is a set piece, not a war story.
Well, and I think that the action beats in the movie work where they need to.
Yeah,
And
100%.
yeah, sure, it may not be the most exciting, but the truth of the matter is like I'd argue that that's the entirety of phase 1 of the MCU. It's a thing
Mhm.
we've talked about a lot. And actually, I'd even argue that of all the third acts in the MCU movies to this point, this is far and away the best one.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
only having Hulk come up behind it. Funny enough.
Mhm.
Just because it feels so lived in and so earned by the time you get to the bigger battle between Red Skull and Cap. The whole chase sequence, the plane sequence where one of the Hydra soldiers falling into the blade is arguably one of the craziest things in the MCU at that point because it's
Yes.
actually wildly violent.
Yes, it really is. I was like,
But
"Oh,
you know
wow."
what it is? It's a throwback to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
100% it is. Absolutely it is. I mean, y
Oh,
but
no,
yeah.
continue.
I was gonna say, it's funny you mentioned the way we're talking about we mentioned with Thunderbolts how, like, Thunderbolts is gonna be successful, we think, because we know and love the characters. That's what and we're gonna talk about this next time. Like, that's what
A
why
lot.
Avengers works so much,
Yeah.
because what we have seen so far in Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, Thor, is we have seen what would have been like 10 minutes, 5, 10 minutes in the Avengers if we had to introduce those characters in the Avengers and then try to make a story after that that connects them all and gets us going to the end. We actually get to expand that out, introduce these characters, and we get to go to the Avengers with them fully formed, fully fledged. We know them, we love them, and we get to see them interact, work together or against each other, and move forward in the story that way. That's why Avengers was so successful and why it was really the first of its kind. It's unique in a way,
Right.
and why DC chased it and did it the wrong way. Just screwed
100%.
it up. Didn't know what it was going for. But that's why
Well,
Marvel is trying to replicate that with Thunderbolts in a more like B level kind of way. And I think that's why it works, though.
and I'd argue they've been doing this in so many ways, whether it's Avengers, whether it's Winter Soldier. Again, you
Mhm.
set up Bucky in the knowing of using him,
Mm.
you know, in another capacity as a
Yeah.
villain that you already have set up.
And I want to actually tackle that because one of our friends, Jeff, always says this, and I totally agree with him 99% of the time, is that you don't worry about the future. You concentrate on telling a good story.
Right.
However, if you can do both and not sacrifice the story you're filming now, like in this case, you can set up Bucky knowing that Winter Soldier is coming, but make him an integral part of the first Avenger, then it's where that's when it does work and works well.
Right.
Everything works well.
And I mean, they set it up perfectly with
Yeah.
him, dying in this and what does it do to Steve and all of that is really well handled because whether or not we see Bucky again, it's a great character moment.
Right.
And it matters to the, lead character. It all actually lands, and that's really important, and I think that's lost in some sort of way nowadays because you kinda nailed it with the DC of it all too, and I mean, arguably, Universal trying to chase the monster stuff and only making a movie out the gate. Um, all these franchises that try to do what Marvel's doing, and even, say what you will, we've been a lot more forgiving to the MCU than a lot of people, but, like, they're struggling too in some
Mhm.
capacity.
Mhm. 100%.
So it's not like this stuff is super easy. And we can't sit here and pretend that it is because it's not. And it's amazing to me looking at this film and seeing how far we've come, this movie feels so grand and so different than anything that they've done to this point. And it still also feels unique in and of itself because there's no other MCU movie like this until First Steps comes out.
Yeah.
There's nothing like this in the MCU. I do think that there is something to be said about being able to do movies that feel different within your universe. It's something I thought Guardians did really well. I think it's something that Ant-Man managed to do pretty well. There's some of those that look, they look like some of the other MCU movies, but tonally they're doing their kind of their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really appreciate that because it helps them stand out.
Right.
And I think that that's what makes this movie so special. One of the things too that I really love early into the movie is that it's bookended obviously by the scenes that are set in the present, but the very opening scene feels the most comic booky we've ever seen anything. And I think this movie might be the first time that like we start to see it in Thor. And they start to embrace this idea that you can make stuff look like a comic book, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's more aesthetically, not necessarily everything else.
Right.
When Red Skull rolls up in his car, that thing is straight out of a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in this movie, the look of everyone, the look of everything is straight out of a comic book. It fully embraces its roots. It had the whole opening of him trying to find the Tesseract and he's raiding this tomb and David Bradley's, trying to protect it. And there's a, fake door behind this tree or a fake cat. What would you call it? Like a little button.
Yeah.
Like almost a drawer. It's like a hidden drawer.
Right.
And that whole thing, it's just straight out of a comic book. It's so good. Also, this is where they tie it into Indiana Jones, and it always makes me happy. I wanted to make sure I brought that up, but the whole "and the Fuhrer digs for trinkets in the desert" is directly them referencing into Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep, absolutely. I would say two things about this. First of all, I find it interesting, and I don't know how to comment on it necessarily, but they were not willing to do a period piece with Thor going back in ancient time. They decided they were going to do it with Captain America. And I'm glad they did. I'm glad they did with Captain America because I think it's more necessary than Thor is at this point.
I think that's why.
And that's probably why. But I will say also, the opening of this film, two comments that I have on this. I am generally not fond of the trope that's been used forever now. I'm getting less and less fond of it, we're going to start somewhere and then we're going to flash it back. Unless there's a reason to recontextualize it. But this is one of the times where I totally think it absolutely is necessary because this is where we are in the Marvel Universe. We are modern here, and then we have to tell his story. Go ahead.
I have a comment.
You have a comment. Okay.
Sorry, real quick.
No, it's okay.
One, I do have one comment back to your first comment about where we were doing this stuff and why. Mm-hmm. I also think it's because World War II still feels weirdly relatively importantly and modern and fresh, and it's still like the ramifications of everything that happened unfortunately continue to be modern,
right,
in some capacity. And I think also to your second point, dude, one movie we just watched, both of us, that did the recontextualization of starting in a movie and you're like, what the fuck has happened? Sinners.
Yes. And yeah, absolutely. It was good there. It was good there.
If you have not seen Sinners yet, I beg you, go see Sinners. There's a scene that is going to stay with you for the rest of your life, and like that is not an exaggeration. It is the same scene that everyone I have talked to who has walked out of the movie is talking about. It just, I have been thinking about it almost a week straight. There's not been a day that I have not just thought about it.
100%. I will say, even though I love Sinners, I didn't need that to open up the film that way. I still didn't need that. Didn't bother me. It didn't bother me though, like it sometimes does. But Captain America, I actually do think it's necessary. So yes. I actually like what they used for that one. I also want to say I really thought about you, and I think one of the reasons I think you like this film, I kept bringing up The Rocketeer for obvious reasons. But you know what else this film, the beginning feels like?
Huh.
Hellboy.
Oh yeah, dude, it straight up is. You're so right.
Which I know you're a big fan of as well, so it
Yeah,
also makes
I
sense.
fucking love Hellboy. You know how much I love Hellboy.
Kind of
I've
has
got
that same
you
kind of.
can't see it really, but up at the top, I've got a couple of like nice pop vinyls that I still have in cases. But one of them that I have is like an older Comic-Con Hellboy, and then I also have Conan as Hellboy at the top
Nice,
because I have a couple of the Conan cosplay ones, and one of them
nice.
is Conan as Hellboy, and I just love Hellboy. I keep thinking about getting a Hellboy tattoo, actually.
I'm surprised you don't have one. Honestly, I really am.
I know, me too.
But it has
One of
that
these
kind of
days.
same kind of vibe. It has that kind of like anachronistic past World War like
Yeah.
kind of thing. German science. It has that kind of
Well,
same feel to
that
it.
first Hellboy's super pulpy.
Oh, 100% it is. Absolutely is.
The the second one less so, and not in a bad way.
No,
Like,
yeah, I agree.
the second one's way more of a fantasy film, and I love it for that.
It's a very underrated film, honestly. But we're gonna get there. I think we'll cover those at some point, I'm sure.
I
Although
mean,
that
I
doesn't
have to
mean
watch yeah,
we have to watch the later ones. It's always
that's what it does.
the ball the problem with our franchise things. We love franchises, but it does mean we have to focus on some of our less desirable watches in the
So, here's a question
franchise.
for you. If we do Hellboy,
Mhm.
do we also cover the 2 animated films with Ron Perlman and the cast?
Yeah,
Because they were technically released,
yeah, I could
they're
see
easy
that.
to access, and they're both pretty good, so at least that means 4 of the 6 are good?
Yeah, that's good. I could be convinced very easily to do that. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay, perfect. Because it makes me not wanna put my head into a grinder at least, because the more if we just do the first 2 and then we get to
The last two.
that movie,
Hmm.
specifically, because I have not watched The Crooked Man.
I have
Um,
not either.
I just can't bring myself to do it. I haven't even bought it, which is shocking for me.
That says something.
Yeah, I just can't do it, man. I felt so burned by the last one, and then this one being made basically just to go direct to video just feels
Dirty.
wrong. Yeah, like, the character deserved better, and I really hate that it feels like Mignola just kinda, like, threw his hands up and he was like, "Fuck it, whatever," like, it just
Yeah,
sucks.
I
Like,
get it.
honestly, there needs to be an animated Hellboy TV show. That's what it should be.
I can't see why there hasn't been.
Y you know, man, I keep asking myself the same thing, and yet here we are.
Like I know, I guess like animation is more expensive than I think it is sometimes but it just seems like there's a lot of places that you could make an easy buck out of an animated series as far
Mhm,
if you do things right. Hellboy, Indiana Jones, um,
mhm.
there's just ways to do it, and you're not
Rocketeer,
making it. Rocketeer would be fun that way,
Shadow,
absolutely. Some of the MCU stuff could be made animated if you want to go that way. It's more of the crazier animated stuff you could
yeah.
do. Um,
Actually, like, we talked about it once. Midnight Suns wouldn't be the worst if it was animated.
no, absolutely, 100%. There's stories that are waiting to be told that you can tell, and you might have a hard time doing it in live action, but animated you can make it work. And just so
Mhm.
why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
No,
Uh,
100%. Not that we've gone completely off the rails at this point, but I mean, it all actually tracks with what we're talking about.
100%.
Um, One of the things I really like in this, though, and credit where credit's due, I do love we don't get a lot with the Howling Commandos, but I
I wish we got
really
more.
Huh?
I do wish we got more.
Me
I do
too,
wish we
and
got
that
more.
this is one of those things this is one of those I would love if we got a prequel film with Nick Fury in the Howling Commandos.
Yeah. Speaking of animated,
Mhm,
that could actually work animated as well.
mhm.
100%.
There's something to be said about that because I would love to see these characters again. They did bring them back in Agents of Shield.
Yep.
They had a flashback episode. They were in that. That was very cool, and I like the cast. I think that the Howling Commandos are really well cast across the board. Um, you got guys like Neil McDonough and Derek Luke. Like you're just getting talent at that point just to have
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah, Neil McDonough is a seriously underrated actor. I think he did a lot of great stuff. Obviously, he was in recently in Tulsa Kings. He was good in that. He just is a
He's one of
solid
those.
choice. He's one of those solid choices. He's never been an A-lister, but anytime you put him in a role, you know you're going to get good work.
Oh, 100%. He is one of those guys that he's just a great character actor. And I just genuinely think that he is very talented.
Mm,
I know that for some people, his um, personal views are difficult for them.
I don't know much about him, but that's
No. I know. But it's one of those that I can look past that with him because he's never like he's never said anything that makes me feel like I can't at least like him.
Gotcha. Okay. I do
Uh,
know. Well, I do know. Yeah, he has that stance on like not doing sex scenes.
yeah, so
He's
he's
devoutly married and
and
Catholic
he
and all
leans
that.
pretty to the right, but
Right.
he's never said anything like super outlandish that I'm aware of,
That's fine.
like certain people. So it's one of those. I get why it might be difficult for people, but I just think he's always been very good.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys that he's just reliable. We talk about it a lot that character actors get overlooked a ton. And he's one of those character actors where you're like, cool, man. Like he pops up in a thing. I know he's at least going to perform.
Absolutely. So,
And
uh,
yeah.
yeah. So let's see. Anything else you have to say about it? I have a couple of those my quick and dirty notes we can hit. If
I'm
you
just trying to think. I mean, I'll say this, man. From the whole sequence at the beginning when he finally becomes like super soldier Steve, it's so well handled. It's so cool. The way that it's shot, the way it's put together, love the zoom in on his eyes. That's real reminiscent of the Hulk because they're trying to make the point that, it's a similar sort of transformation.
right.
Love all the stuff at Stark Expo that we tie it back to Iron Man 2.
Right.
Love all that. Think that's great. Love that whole beat when he's chasing Richard Armitage because it really shows off Cap's powers. And again, nice tie back to the Hulk because it really shows what they were trying to do in that film when you see, Tim Blake or Timothy Roth with the powers for the first time and he's fighting the Hulk. Like there's a lot of, for a movie that people call super disconnected, I would argue it's might be the most connected of all the MCU movies in some capacity to this point because it really leans in on a lot of the stuff that you recognize and and if you don't know, that's okay too because it doesn't pull you out of the movie.
Right. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could say it's most connected, but I definitely agree. It's more
Just to this
connected than
point, I
most.
mean, like
Okay.
it's only the fifth film. Like at this point, it's arguably the most connected because it's the ones that has connections to the Hulk the way that it's done, connections to Iron Man the way that it's done, connections to Thor the way that it's done, the one that directly sets up the Avengers. Like all that stuff is super great and it really works. The end of this movie is remarkable. And I'm not talking, I mean, your mileage may vary on the last button of the film, obviously. And I know that that's a little bit of a controversial thing, and we'll talk about that in a second. But when he knows that he has to down the plane because it's headed towards New York and he's talking to Peggy, it is maybe the most emotional scene for me in the movie, and it makes me teary-eyed every single time.
Which is a hard thing to pull off when we as the audience know he's surviving.
Right.
Like we know he's coming back because we know he's in the Avengers. We know that this is the first film of he's not dying. So they have to pull off a Cap is dying moment, make you at least, I don't believe it's not the right word, but at least you get engaged enough that you have those feelings of believing it. And otherwise, it comes off as cheap and crass, and it comes across,
right.
you can come across very fake. But it doesn't, partially because of again the chemistry between Cap and between Chris and Haley.
Right,
wonderfully done. Very strong characters. Not good. They don't show emotions very much. When they do, it's kind of subtly done, but it's really there in their faces. And so that's what makes it work. It's set up by one of my favorite sequences in the film earlier was the grenade moment from earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And Tommy Lee Jones and Stanley Tucci are arguing. Tommy Lee Jones basically saying this is a 98-pound weakling. He's got asthma. This is not who I envisioned to be my super soldier.
I want someone brave and strong.
Brave and strong, like the asshole we met earlier. And Stanley Tucci's like, no, it's not about that. It's about whatever. And then it's Tommy Lee Jones who goes, it's about guts. And what does he do? He throws the grenade out, and everybody else runs for cover. And 98-pound weakling Steve Rogers jumps on the grenade in front of everybody. And Stanley Tucci just kind of looks at him, smiles, like looks at Tommy Lee Jones with this great smirk. And of course, Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones. Oh, he's so skinny. Yeah. He can't even admit defeat, which is funny. I love it.
But again, Tommy Lee Jones playing Tommy Lee Jones playing Tommy Lee Jones is never a bad thing.
Right. But that bravery moment leads to the ending of the film. We know what Steve's going to do. Steve
know
does
that
the entire way through.
100%. Also, Tommy Lee Jones is in one of the Jason Statham movies.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to throw that out there because he is in Jason Statham Mechanic Resurrection.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, Tommy Lee Jones. I just love it. Now, as far as the ending is concerned,
okay,
because I know this is a difficult pill for a lot of people to swallow, they say that it kind of undercuts the end of the film before this. But I actually love it, and I'll tell you why. Because one, we have to know that they've obviously found him.
right.
We know that. The movie opens with that.
Right, and you got to return to that.
You got to return to it. You can't just leave that lingering. But the fact of the matter is that the way that it's handled is so perfect because they try to trick him into believing that he is waking up in his own time.
Right.
The shot of him running outside is so good, having Fury and the SHIELD agents stop him, and it ending with, I had a date. Just sells it and makes it so bittersweet in the best way.
Right.
For me, it only puts a bow on the end of the movie. I know that for some people it doesn't quite land because they would rather they'd rather the movie ends with the shot of the kids with the shield in their hands running around Brooklyn, and I get that.
Right.
But like, it's such a great bow for an ending in which we know they have to get to, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I am of two minds of this. I almost would have preferred this to be the post-credit scene.
Sure, and I can understand that.
Because we'd have that moment, you have the Cap moment, boom, there it is. We end on the kids, we have the credits, and then we have Cap being brought back. It's almost, oh yeah, that's what happened in the beginning. Let's go back to that, and that would lead into the Avengers movie. Because the post-credit sequence we got, honestly, it felt almost repetitive because of that last scene. Sure, we're getting to the point where now, like, all right, now Cap is already back, and now we're moving from Cap to the Avengers, but we didn't need to have that because we know Cap's going to go to the Avengers. We know this is going to happen. You don't need to have
but we also get like the teaser, which is kind of cool.
Well, no, I still think you could have done that end sequence and then say Cap will return to the Avengers, and then we get into the Avengers. I think it still could have worked out.
I see. Yeah.
In a way. So I would agree. I think that argument holds a lot of water for me, and I think I honestly would have preferred it, only because I do appreciate how once we get back into that time frame, it is about Cap and Haley and everything else.
Sure.
And then having that post credit would work better for me. I'm not saying it doesn't work now. It works okay enough for me. Just actually, I think my biggest argument is that the post credit sequence just seems repetitive at that point and not worth it. Like that would have been
fair enough. I mean, I certainly don't necessarily agree, but like I understand what you're saying. You know, like it's just one of those. You're in a difficult spot no matter what, right?
Right. It's tough,
because you know you have to end the movie with the scene of him waking up.
Right.
One way or another, it's going to have to happen. So it's almost a bummer that it comes after such an emotionally cruxed moment that the rest of the movie hinges on. But the smartest move they make is that in doing that, they tie it back to that. And so, again, yeah. So I can understand where everyone's coming from, but credit where credit's due. They also tried to make it a point that it still manages to tie to it to at least allow the emotional crux to exist in the moment, which I think pushes that scene further than it may have before.
Right. Absolutely.
So, your mileage may vary, and I 100% get it. It does become one of those, we just have to do this because we're moving forward and we have to get to the Avengers. Like, we have to do this thing. So it may not fully land for people, but it works for me, and that's always how it's been.
Good enough. I do have a couple, like I said, a couple of quick notes. Speaking of that finale, am I the only one, or did you get reminded a little bit of Armageddon when you see the kids?
A little bit, yeah.
Like the kids with the space shuttle things, and now it's Captain America with the shield. I like that aspect of it. A couple other quick notes. I do love, we mentioned it a bit, but I want to harp on it. The way they developed Steve and Bucky throughout the film. There are a couple of different sequences that really hammered home their camaraderie and their chemistry. The goodbye scene in the beginning, really heartfelt between them. When Cap finds Bucky and they have that like humorous friendship relation, like, I thought you were dead. I thought you were smaller. Like that.
So good. So good.
So fun there. And that really helps establish Bucky so well. So what else we got? The flagpole incident. That was a great way to pick Cap. Such a
So
perfect
good.
Captain America moment where he's like using the whole time is about using brains over brawn. He gets the bronze, but he has to have the brains established first. And he's smart, clever, and he makes it work. That's why I love that part. The Universal monster movie feel of the transformation.
Uh-huh.
It feels like
Again.
Frankenstein, like it
Yeah.
all over again in a way, and in the best way possible
Yep.
for it. And the Star Spangled Man with a Plan bit. Some people find
So
it
good.
hokey. I think it's so perfectly done because it's so of that time and what the government absolutely would have done. 100% would have done.
Oh, I mean, dude, Disney was making propaganda films. WB was making propaganda films. That is exactly the type of stuff that was done all the time. Also, once again, Alan Menken now coming in to do the song. You know, this time they're going back to people who they know can do Disney music because they need something catchy and poppy and, you know, of the era, and Menken nails it.
Speaking of Alan and music, though, Alan Silvestri, great score on this one as well.
Oh, good.
Fantastic. And then we actually get those hints of the first hints of the Avengers music coming to play, like become famous. I love the connection, how it connects to Captain America that way. Beautifully done. What a great composer he is. Wonderful composer.
So good.
And finally, the last line I want to throw out there that I loved. Oh, no, I do two things. One more. The line I love. Do you too?
Fondue. So good.
So good. So, like, of its time allusions to, like, the only way Chris Evans, Chris Steve Rogers could ask that question. Love that. Good. And the only one of the only criticisms I had in a weird kind of way, they have those like filmed moments of Steve, and they're not in black and white because it's in the 40s or whatever.
Right.
But like it just looks like a 2014 shot made black and white. Like
yeah,
you couldn't have made it like grainier or like. It just felt a little weird to me. Like, so that really looks like out of place. I mean, I guess
that's fair. I can definitely give you that. Though I do love the moment when it zooms in on the picture of Peggy.
Yes.
And like you see Tommy Lee Jones kind of look at her while they're watching the footage, and she like kind of blushes and looks. It's so good. It's so good. 100%. Again, their relationship is just so excellent, man.
Agreed. So, yeah, that's really all I'm gonna say. I don't really have many criticisms for it. I can get that it slows down for some people. There's some exposition heavy sequences at times,
and it's very specifically. It's got a very specific feel. It's got a very specific tone, and that means that it's
coded.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say, so that means that it's paced very specifically. So I know that of all the MCU movies, like it at this point, it might be the one that feels the slowest in some capacity.
Right.
But that's okay because I think that it's all around building the character and the world and the way that it all works. It is very much a throwback film to an era of filmmaking that we don't really do anymore. So if it doesn't gel with you, I do get it. But for me, like that very deliberate pace works. And that very deliberate feel works.
I think a lot of people watched Winter Soldier, and that was the Captain America film they wanted. Which, and that's no knock on the Winter Soldier. I think the Winter Soldier is a great film, but it's a different type of film, and that's okay.
I think you're right, and it's so funny because the closest thing you can compare this to in some capacity is Wonder Woman and then Wonder Woman 84.
Yes, I actually meant that at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you think about that, it's so interesting because people love the Winter Soldier, and people hate Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah,
and it's just such and they both handled things so differently in their like making a modern sequel. Right. And I'm sure we'll kind of get to that actually when we talk about Winter Soldier, but like it's just very interesting because they're both had previous films that were period pieces and had their own like version of Howling Commando type. Like they're very comparable films in a lot of ways. And
absolutely.
It's just so interesting how one is like very beloved for its sequel and how one is very much not.
Yeah, well, because Wonder Woman, the original film, is well loved, absolutely, and
yes, 100%.
Wonderful film. 84, I get it. I think the difference is, and we can talk about this next time, maybe more in depth. But like, I believe Winter Soldier leaves the first Captain America behind for good reason in terms of like we have the acclimated Steve Rogers at this point, and that makes sense. Whereas Wonder Woman is not as acclimated. It's she's been there for long enough that she should possibly be more acclimated and be more of a grounded, not necessarily grounded, more of its time movie. And they try to do of the '80s film, that's still that kind of like throwback hokiness of Wonder Woman's first appearances in a way. They try to do too much of a hybrid, and it doesn't work. Captain America rightfully goes, this is the Captain America, the first Avenger. This is the Winter Soldier. Totally different types of films.
100%. So. I think you're right. Well, I guess we gotta rate this guy, huh?
Rate the son of a bitch, because we always rate things on a scale of 1 to 11 here on PLD Projects. We always turn things up to 11. I'll go down them really quick. Iron Man, both 8s. Incredible Hulk, I gave an 8. You gave an 8.5. Iron Man 2, I gave a 7. You gave an 8. Thor, we both gave 8s. What are you doing with Captain America, the first Avenger?
Buckle up, boneheads. You're going for a ride. Turn that baby up to 11, because this is it. That's my boy. And here's the thing. I totally know this is going to be the one time that we're going to have like very different ratings probably, and I don't care. Like I legitimately adore this movie. If you couldn't tell already, it is 100% my speed. This is exactly the type of filmmaking in blockbuster, throwback, adventure, pulpiness that I love, that we don't get a lot of these days. It comes on, it's kind of the end of an era because we really don't see this stuff anymore. Because even Wonder Woman that comes after it is not very pulpy. Like it is a very different feel of a film. So this is the end of a big era for me in a lot of ways. And so to me, it is that movie. It means so much to me. I really, really love it. I love the cast. I love the music. I love everything. It to me, this is what movies are made of and made for. And it is love. It is life. It is Captain America.
I love that so much for you, by the way. I do. You're correct in that I don't give it a perfect 11.
I know.
But, maybe surprisingly to you, this is my favorite MCU film so far. Still.
Ooh.
I'm going to give it a solid 9. I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 11. I do love it. It's a little uneven at times for me. And I said I have some marks with here and there.
Sure.
But at the same time, I can't deny that I think this film is extremely well made. I love me a slice of pulp. Not as much as you, but I do love my pulp. So I sure do. So I can see exactly everything you see.
You know what? My heart is full that you at least gave it a higher rating than everything else to this point, and I couldn't be happier, because I thought for sure I was going down screaming. Like I thought this was going to be like, you knocked me out with it, and it was like I'm going to go down fighting at least on it, and it's fine. Like if that's the case, but I'm thrilled. This makes me happy.
I gave you more of a love tap for it, I guess, instead.
You're just the best. You love me so much.
I do. I went into this film expecting to still like Iron Man over it, and maybe Thor over it, because I love mythology and gods and stuff like that. But there's something about this film that seemed more complete.
Yes, 100%.
Complete, like a complete film. Thor had just uneven moments, and that Chris Hemsworth he didn't quite have the roll down yet at that point. Iron Man is wonderful first step, but it hasn't committed fully to the ideal of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe could be. Hulk has some great moments, and it's a solid film overall, but there's some cartoonish of it, unnecessary, not meaning to be cartoonish sequences of that. Whereas this film really kind of hits what it's aiming for. And that I understand, and that gives me a lot of love for it. So I can't knock it down too much. So a 9 out of 11 works for me. So
that is the best news of all time, and it just makes me so happy. I'm just glad to hear that you liked it as much as I was hoping. And it's so funny because at the end of the day, like I said, I thought I was going to be on a lone island in some capacity. Like, I know you like the movie, but I didn't expect to be. I thought there was going to be more of a riff, to be honest. Like, this was one of those few times that I came into the episode where I was like, he may not like it as much as me, and like, that's fine. I'm going to be like the one voice that is loud about how much they love this movie, and I am so happy to not be in the end. It just that made my day. Thank you. You made my day. You made my whole year, Paul. You made my whole year.
I am glad to do so, because I like it when you're happy, and I didn't do this just to make you happy, but happy that it ended up working out the way it did, the way it did. So good for all of us. We do have one more thing to rate, though. We have to rate
the best Stan Lee cameo so far.
The cameo. You're going to give it number 1?
Yeah, I'm giving it number 1. Okay. I thought he'd be taller. It makes me laugh every time. It's so silly. The setup for it is so good. I just love it. I think it's so good.
I think it's the first one as well.
Yes, my man.
I almost put Iron Man over there. Actually, I still love him as Hugh Hefner, the Hugh Hefner bit.
Yeah.
But the setup works so well in this one. That's what sold me on it.
He'd be taller. It just every single time. You know what's so funny? And this has nothing to do with anything in the MCU, but it does have to do with this. If I had to give, and we will never rank this, so I'm just going to say it now. My favorite Stan Lee cameo, though, of all time in any of the Marvel movies is not in the MCU.
Oh, okay.
It is in Rise of the Silver Surfer when he is trying to get into the wedding and his name isn't not on the list. And he's like, my name is Stan Lee. And he's trying so hard to get into the wedding. I die every single time. Nice. I think it's hysterical.
And you know what? Never say never. Because, we could actually go back at some point and do the
non-MCU movies. No, because do you know what that means? That means then we have to watch Fan Four Stick, and I will not do it again.
Oh, that is a tough one.
I will not do it again. Like you couldn't pay me enough to watch that movie again.
I will quadruple your salary.
So $0.
Yes.
Fuck you.
I'll add 4 zeros to it.
I just, there are few movies that I loathe the way that I loathe that movie. I just cannot do it again.
I think I like it more than most, but I don't like it. So it's like,
what does that tell you?
Yeah,
what does that say?
I think I watched it like after like everybody hated it and shit on it. So I kind of went into it and kind of went, yeah, it's bad, but I didn't like have that instant revulsion because I was prepared for it being.
I saw it opening night.
That's tough.
Yeah, and I was watching it and I was getting angrier as I watched it, and my buddy Sam was sitting next to me, and we just kept looking at each other and we're like, this is not happening. And then it does the like weird time jump halfway through the movie, and both of us were like, we were checked out at that point, and it just kept getting worse.
That's funny.
That's funny. Bad movie.
It is.
Bad movie is bad.
Fair enough, my friend. All right. Since this is coming out in December on the main channel, you might as well go ahead and say, where can the folks find you? Hopefully they can still find you in the same place.
Yeah, I mean, look, with the state of everything, who knows at this point? You guys can find me wherever social medias are sold at PJ_Campbell, usually on the Blue Skies and the Instagrams. I really don't go to the bad place anymore. I just try to avoid it as best as humanly possible. It's just easier. Otherwise, man, yeah, hanging out here, doing our thing, it's been nice. It's been fun. We're going to keep trucking along, man. The MCU stuff has been a really good time for us. So I'm really enjoying doing this, and I hope that you guys are enjoying it. I'm really curious where we're going to be at in the main channel at this point, if they're like listening on, not on the Patreon, because with Doctor Who taking a back seat, as we've talked about, we're probably going to do a one-off episode season recap type thing at the very end. But we have so many other things that we've been talking about. I think you guys are going to really like it. I know that we have Ghostbusters and Men in Black both kind of on the docket, which I'm super thrilled about. Are we doing that after Superman? Is that the...
Let me double check, but I believe that's the play we're doing. Superman.
Because we're doing all of Superman right now, which is super fun, by the way.
Yes, we're having a grand old time.
Except also, we're about to go into literally the worst movie of the entire franchise.
Might be the worst movie we actually ever have done a podcast on, potentially.
Potentially.
I say that without having rewatched it, so I can't say that definitively, but it definitely is a contender.
It's up there for sure. I know that much.
But yes, after that would be Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters franchise, and the Men in Black franchise.
Cool.
Got a lot of stuff coming on. You want to do Hellboy at one point, as I mentioned, if we do it the right way. I'm fine with that as well. We also have some other things we're going to do. Like we are going to do the Kevin Smith watch through at some point. The Kevin Smith-a-thon. That's one thing we wanted to do for sure.
Review Askew, baby.
Review Askew.
But here's the thing. We're trucking through the MCU, man. And I kind of like that we're just doing the thing, and I'm really enjoying it. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as we are. For the Patreons,
we do gotta find another horror franchise to go back to our roots a little bit. We have to at least, every once in a while we have to go back and do a horror franchise that we could say, yeah, we're still.
Well, that's part of why we're doing Ghostbusters, because we can argue that it's partially horror. Look, for the patrons, this is for you guys, honestly. Yeah. And this is not a joke. I just want to say, like, if you're listening to this in December, I'm really glad you're finally listening to it. Like, this is not a knock at you, but it really was my argument once we decided not to do Doctor Who, was to push through with this, because the patrons do matter. And for us to keep the channel lights on and stuff, I wanted to make sure that you guys did not get shafted in getting additional episodes, because we had just finally started getting this thing back up and running this way, and I didn't want to take it away from you, because that was going to be a long wait. Like, I mean, it would have been only like 4 episodes probably, but it's too much, and I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is really for you guys. I'm really, really hoping that you're enjoying it as much as we are, because it's such a blast. We see the MCU a lot differently, I think, than most people these days. And
I agree.
And I think that by revisiting this stuff, it only reminds me why.
100%. And I will say also, if you are listening or watching this in December and you haven't joined the Patreon yet, now's the time to do so, because there's a bunch of more MCU films waiting for you in the Patreon already at this point.
We're probably almost through phase 2 at this point.
I'm probably close to it. So patreon.com/PLD Projects for those who aren't there. But if you can't, I get it. I understand. Like, subscribe, all that other stuff as well. Leave comments.
Leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify if you can. Rate and review it on Spotify too. Like, your guys' support goes a long way. When we first started this, weirdly enough, we somehow ended up being one of the top entertainment podcasts at its time, and I still don't quite know how that happened.
Yeah.
But every time you guys pop through and you tell us how much you're enjoying it, it means the world. So thank you guys.
100%. I do want to throw that out there. And also want to throw out there, you can find me at Paul on Blue Sky. I also I very less frequently visit the Bad Place as much. And but you can find me all over the podcast, all over this channel. I obviously have a lot of different podcasts on this channel. Star Wars podcast with Matty Gunner, Review, which is a franchise. I cover V, the franchise from 1980s. And I do other things, like Queen podcast as well. I'm all over the channel. You can find me, subscribe. You can find things you'd like to see from me. And you know what? Let it, guys, especially patrons, if you're listening now, let us know if whatever the next franchise you'd like us to cover exclusively to the Patreon, for that matter. It'll take a while to get there, because getting to the MCU is going to take a while, of course.
Yeah. Slowly but surely getting there, though.
We're going to be eventually looking for the next series to do specifically for you guys. So
I think I know what it's going to be.
Okay.
Assuming that they don't tell us otherwise, but it's one that we've talked about doing for a bit, and we've put it off because the fan base notoriously is terrible. But it would be, I'd be remiss if we didn't go a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Right? Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah, I have this feeling. We've put it off to this point for reasons, but I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So let us know what you think about that. You could have us talking about Star Wars. It'd be nice to. I mean, you get me talking about Star Wars all the time, but getting this guy's attention on Star Wars is quite a new, interesting thing.
It's a new hope, you might say.
Might be a new hope. And on that note,